Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So we actually have no idea what happened before, but he came down in the back thing, and we're not sure we can follow him.
I'm jealous, man.
Yeah, he's like all dressed up and.
Should have worn my onesie.
I'm more nervous now than I was previously.
How many like that fashion? All right, some real people in the crowd. I like it.
Yeah. So just by way of introduction for Tony, as an entrepreneur, I've now had Tony back 2 of my companies. And so I kind of want to talk to him talk about him as a VC for a second before I switch over and talk to him about it as an entrepreneur. But as a VC, I came down. My first company was Plancast, and I came down, and I had a really hard meeting with some investors like the previous day, and it was all business, and they were all like, "This is what you guys got to do. This is how you have to execute," and they prioritized everything high priority. Of like a 10 bullet pointed list, and it was a brutal meeting. And then the next day we went down to True Ventures, and we met up with Tony, and he was just like, let's go grab coffee, and let's just talk. And so we go to just like a local coffee place, and we just sat there for an hour and a half, and we talked tech, we talked about startups, and it was so different. An experience as my previous meeting. And he was the 3rd VC I had ever met in my entire life, and it was just like so markedly different that I was blown away. And so fast forward a couple years, and here we are at First Opinion, and to let you know just like how awesome he is in terms of stuff is like I sent him an email being like, hey, we're looking to raise money for First Opinion. And he came back with 2 questions. Why haven't you approached me sooner? And when can we jump on the phone and talk? And so the next day we jumped on the phone. We had a great phone call while he was going down to talk to his partners for a partnership meeting. And then he called us back on the way up and said, we should probably meet in person because I've never met your co-founder. And so that night we went down and we met him for coffee at Blue Bottle. And had another great discussion where we talked about First Opinion, but we talked about tech, we talked about the startups, we talked about just everything. And within a week of that, True had committed money and had invested in First Opinion. And so he's an amazing VC. Now, as an entrepreneur, I'm sorry, my intro is running long, but I want to talk about you. But as an entrepreneur in the back, in the green room, he was helping someone fix their About.me profile. And he was like sitting there, like giving them advice. This is how you can make it better. And it's just like, he's like always hustling. And so I just want to take a quick informal poll just to see like how much he's touched like everyone's life. How many people have WordPress blogs? Just raise your hand. No, not bad.
Thank you.
Anyone have Fitbits?
Awesome.
Anyone have About.me profiles?
Woo. Thank
you. I think we're probably even. It's like each one of those companies he's personally, he's helped cultivate, he's invested in, he's started, and like this is like these are your people. You are touching their life.
All right.
So let's get to the questions.
I feel like I should just be a fly on the wall. Keep going.
Yeah, it is. Now I'm just going to ask like one-word questions, and you're just going to get to
we
talk.
Talk about the disasters.
We can talk about anything you want. But it's like as I was like preparing for the meeting, I was looking at the trends that Tony has been in. So we have blogging with WordPress. We have wearable devices with Fitbit. We've got artisanal coffee with Blue Bottle. We have identity with About.me. We have all these amazing. He's just been on the top of the trends. 3D printers with MakerBot. We have robotics or drones with 3D robotics, and so he's been at the forefront of all these trends. Like before they were anything. Before we were buying these programs and blogging and doing everything. So my first question is, how do you do it?
Well, I think it's the age-old, technique of meeting a lot of people that you respect, being a good listener, taking a long-term view towards relationship building as opposed to trying to look for silver bullets. I know that's hard, but if you think of this is a career, being in the startup game or being in the investing game as something that's a vocation that's going to last 20 to 40 years, that's a really big mind shift when you adopt that methodology and that mindset. It means that you don't have to solve everything. You don't have to forge this intense relationship with somebody in a one-off situation, right? And I think that I've been lucky. Little success begets a little bit more opportunity, which hopefully turns into more success. And I think I've been fortunate that I've been able to kind of hang around and work with a lot of very interesting people. A deal that he didn't mention that I'm really amazingly excited about is Philip Rosedale's new company, High Fidelity. Philip, for those of you who don't know, was the founder of Second Life. He's a true visionary, a real founder of a movement. We led his deal very quietly at the beginning of 2013. And I think that's indicative of what we're I guess my approach. I don't know a lot about, I didn't know a lot about self-publishing, but Matt Mullenweg did. And I want to be really clear. In each of these things, it's not me, right? These are what I've kind of coined as a phrase: founders of movements. They're people that have a vision of the way the world should be. They have a gift in how they're able to present that vision and to generate a community of enthusiasm around it. And I think those are the kind of people that I want to be involved with. So that's really the main thing I kind of look for. I listen to the idea. I definitely think about the market. I think about valuations and if it's a square deal for us. We spend a lot of time trying to be no nonsense about how we talk about valuation. Market may be X price, and that just may not be the right type of deal for us where it creates alignment, and we're just really kind of crystal clear. And certain type of entrepreneur will accept that, and certain entrepreneurs will just say no, and that's cool. It self-selects. So I don't know, just stay with good people. That's kind of I think that's kind of the tired theme here.
But how are you recognizing these people? How are you recognizing these people?
Well, I think I definitely have a thesis on things I'm interested in. So I'm definitely interested in identity. I think that I think about .me and maybe a handful of other companies are going to emerge, and it'll be a little bit like what did they see in the moment? We can come back to that. But I think identity is a really big open space. I'm super excited about open source. When's the last time you heard anybody talking about open source? But I'm thinking about it, and we're thinking about it as a firm. And I should say, when I say I, it's a bad habit. It's really we. My partners at True are amazing. The way we kind of think about open source and how it applies to hardware, that's a whole different thing. And the first time we tested that thesis was with MakerBot. And Bree was kind enough to let us, be one of his lead seed investors, and then a participant in his subsequent rounds. But we got to see how a hardware community coalesces around open source concepts. So that I get really, really excited about. Really excited about brand. That's a lot the thesis here of Blue Bottle, and I know this one's so off. It's so off the reservation in terms of what we should be doing and what our limited partners are asking us to do. But this is a once-in-a-decade type iconic brand that has a founder that I consider to be one of the founders of a movement that is real and significant and a very quickly growing market. And we were able to participate in this and in a very big way and to join their board. And, that's a privilege, right? So I get excited about things like that. I'm clearly excited about wearables and Internet of Things. I'm a little bit concerned at how crowded and how noisy it gets and whatnot. But there's there's so many things to be excited about. Every time I think oh my God, we're at the end, we're at the end of another period. Just right there, something slaps you in the face. It's like, nope, this is all going to happen again. It's all reinventing itself. When we started True Ventures, The iPhone didn't exist, and we started True Ventures in 2005. That is really remarkable when you take a step back and you think over an arc, to remove yourself from that short-term, one-week kind of mentality that we all have, and think about things in a slightly longer time frame. That's really 8 years ago when we started the firm. And think about what that's done, the disruption that it's created. Think about categories. When we started the firm, we would have never told a limited partner that we were excited about investing in hardware or education or government or anything, or Open ROV, which is a subterranean, it's a submarine that crawls the ocean's floor. It's a robotics company that we just invested in this past year. Like, we would have never mentioned any of these things, but the disruption is so crazy, and it's so, the timing for all of us is so special that we get to be participants in truly a reinvention of almost every single category, in the world. It's all up for grabs, right? And it's amazing. It's an amazing time. And I don't know if that'll be like that in 20 years, but this is an amazing time. This is the Midnight in Paris moment. If you haven't taken a step back and thought about it, this is that moment where the community is still, even though we think it's big, is still small enough that the interactivity between those people who are the leading thinkers in this movement or in this moment are totally intertwined with the larger community. And at some point in time, that's no longer possible, right? But that is what's happening in this moment, and that's why it's special.
And trying to form the correct thought here, but it's when you find these people, and you're finding these they're future titans of industries, but they're people that are creating a moment. How do you know when you should back their hunches? Like, I mean, it's hard for me to kind of describe the question, but it's like when someone comes to you from an industry that you're
I don't know how you know. I knew with Matt. I think Matt's, maybe I've got a gift or something. I don't know.
It seems like you have a gift, and so I'm having trouble.
But I think a lot of people have that gift, and I don't think it's unique to me at all. But I knew, with Matt Mullenweg, I think he was a 19-year-old kid. He was in Houston. He'd never seen snow. I wasn't meeting him in person. I was talking to him on the phone. He was, the lead contributor, around this open source movement, and it was called WordPress. Self-publishing was incredibly early on. There was no real kind of indication yet or breakout company. Blogger hadn't broken out. Evan was struggling, mightily with that. Ben and Mina had 6 Apart. I don't think they called it 6 Apart then. I think it was called Movable Type or Typepad. I always get them mixed up. There wasn't a clear leader, and maybe there was 1,000 bloggers, right? But when I talked to Matt, it was like, who is this guy? He is like showing me stuff that we find trivial now, like photo sharing and all this stuff. Like, he was showing me that you could do this in an environment. He's doing it in a private channel with me, but like, I think you take a step back and you go, wow, that's special. I didn't actually know he was 19 for a long time. I think I figured that out when he turned, I think 20, because I missed a call and he said it was okay, it was his birthday. So the normal question that we would ask is, how old are you? I knew he was young, but I didn't have any idea that young. And I think my response was, could you connect me with your mother? Because I'm a creepy old dude in California, and that's got to feel weird. But, I just knew. And then people like Philip, Philip just knows. Like, I'm just along for the ride and amazed at every step of the way. James Freeman from Blue Bottle, I always say, if I close my eyes and I listen to him talk about his vision of what he's doing and why it's important and how it fits into your life, he doesn't sound any different to me than Evan Williams or Matt Mullenweg or Katarina Fake or a number of great founders. He feels like a founder of a movement, and so that's kind of what I'm listening for. it's harder, in a case with you and McKay, because, and we back a lot of super young founders. We're not just backing the established Philip Rosedales of the world. And I think the thing that I was so impressed upon with First Opinion is I believe in the power of immediate commerce, that can, transactional things that can happen here, where the friction gets taken out. And what First Opinion's doing is remarkable, because I've been a parent. I'm still a parent. You're always a parent once you are. But I've been a parent of young children, and I've known what it's like when they have a rash or they got a little spike in their fever, and how irrational, emotional you get as a parent, like, and you just want somebody to talk to, right? You just want somebody to talk you down the ledge, and you just want some comfort, right? And you can't get that. You can't get that with your doctor. You can, but who wants to honestly page their doctor at 2 a.m.? I don't want to do that to Larry Shore. I know he'll call me back, he'll take it seriously, but I don't want to do that, right? And so then there's this kind of friction. Their model is amazing. I think it's super special. So I love their vision. I love listening to what they want to do with it. But it still doesn't, even if they had a great vision, if I didn't trust Jay and hadn't worked with him before, and if I had not taken the time on a horrendously busy, bad day right before Christmas, worst time of the year to be introducing myself to the concept, in a year where I wasn't going to do any deals, that I'm going to do a deal, and I'm going to do it in 2 days. To drive up to the city and have my, sixth blue bottle of the day and get myself amped up, but to meet this founder, that to me, is paramount to everything. Are these going to be people that we can have sensible conversations with? I don't like to meddle. I don't like board meetings. I don't like actually being on boards, I've learned. I like having coffee. I like sitting down and having a conversation with a founder, and I think that's because I'm a founder, right? I don't think of myself as an investor. I think of myself as a founder, and I know how I like working with people when I put that hat on, which is the most important hat I wear. So that's kind of it.
Awesome. Just a quick plug: you can always text your First Opinion doctor at 2 a.m. So Slack, no problem there. I actually want to talk to you about being a founder.
Sure.
About.me. I think everyone would love to hear your idea and what your close friends and a couple of your partners and everyone thought about it when you presented the idea, and was like, when you had a hunch.
Yeah, so the idea, there's 3 of us that are founders, so it's never just my idea. It's Tim Young, who also simultaneously founded a company called Socialcast that got bought for a very large number from VMware. He's an absolute star and stud. Ryan Freitas, who had worked with me on Sphere previously, and one of the early Adaptive Path guys, total star. So it was the 3 of us, and I think all of us were kind of coming around this idea individually around what was going to happen in a world where there was just so many profiles, and what did that look like. And, so I had the idea, but I wasn't all that ready to start another business. And, but it kept gnawing at me, and I kept thinking about it and tinkering and whatnot. And one day I just came in and I told my partners, hey, you know what? I was thinking about only being an investor, but I think I'm going to start a company and I'll continue to invest. I'm excited to be a partner here, but I want to start something. And they said, oh, great. What are you going to do? And I told them the idea, and you kind of know. How many of you are founders? Like, you sit across, yeah, you know the look. You kind of sit across, and there's an awkward politeness. And it's a, yeah, I won't, my mother doesn't want me to use bad words, but, you get the idea. There's an moment. And but they said, yeah, let's do that. And then, well, one or two people said, one person pulled me aside, actually said, listen, TC, that's a terrible idea. You shouldn't do that. You're going to embarrass yourself. And I said, yeah, I got it. I went home, and that pissed me off. Sorry, Mom. But that really irritated me. That was the moment. It was good that he said that to me because it gave me a lot of conviction, right? It was what I needed to hear. Not just because he said no, it's what forced me to really think about that. This is a person that I probably respect the most on the planet telling me that, in confidence, you're going to embarrass yourself. And I just came back and I'm like, I'm all in, let's do this. And so we went for it. And it turns out that it's one of those, I think it's one of those, and I think the market is showing us that it's one of those magical ideas. It's a bit of an odd idea. It's not all that sophisticated technologically, although it's surprisingly much more complex than you would think. Our growth and the value proposition obviously resonates. The growth of the company has been tremendous. We had an opportunity to buy it back, and AOL and Tim were kind enough to let us do so. And I have zero regrets about that. It's just one of those magical consumer internet brands. I think it'll be one of the top 15 consumer internet properties on the web. I think that's the trajectory of the company right now. That's a big deal. And that's not just me fancifully, making that up. It's just looking at the data. I can see the trajectory. It's crazy. And the world will eventually, hopefully, come around and understand what our vision for it was and how it fits into their life.
So, we look at About.me now, and it's big. But I think it's a perfect execution in the early days of what you say a simple idea. And so do you just want to take us real quick, because some of these people are entrepreneurs, some of these people are like trying to start ideas and everything, and it's like take us through how you launched and how you executed your vision.
Sure. So a little bit of luck. So one of the things happens when you've been in the Valley for a while and you've been part of some successful stuff is that you have a lot of people that would like to support you. But the challenge is those people that have supported you in the past, you need to remain some loyalty to, right? Or, in my case, total loyalty to. So the people I've taken money from the past, I'm going to take money from again, pure and simple. That's it. That's my rule of thumb. And so there's no capacity to take money from anyone else. But a lot of your friends and a lot of people would like you to do that. So it bothered me a little bit. I didn't want to overcapitalize the company. So I just started saying to people, you know what, don't worry about it. How about I just make you an advisor? And I kind of fast forwarded and I realized that we were a 4-person team and we had 26 advisors. That's true, that's legit stuff. But so that's a little dumb luck. That's a little like something, one thing happening and then you realize, oh, but where I will take some credit, I was smart enough to pause and go, wow, okay, these are amazing people, and this is 2011. These people have like almost 25 million Twitter followers. It's Kevin Rose, and it's Matt Mullenweg, and it's Veronica Belmont, and, Om Malik, and, you guys know who it is, right? So I'm like, okay, guess what? These are going to be the first people. They're going to be the first 26 people to set up profiles. And by virtue of doing that, it kind of established a certain curiosity and interest from a very large audience of people that totally, and the real gift here was it wasn't just us, right? Om Malik, when he has 1 million followers, there's only so many technology-interested people following Om Malik, right? There's people in Indiana, there's people in India, there's people all over the world following Om Malik and interested in what he has to say. So we crossed over immediately. And I think that's just one of those rare moments where you're lucky. You see something and you're like, let's go hard and double down and grab that. And so we did. We anchored very hard on, our advisors, and they really helped us to establish the company and put it on the map. And so that really was our simple execution play.
I think they're telling me that we've run out of time, but I'm not 100% sure because this is my first time that they came in, but I don't know. Now they've left. So now like, yeah, so it's like, we'll just keep going until they come and, I guess, yank me off. I'm not sure. I wish they would have given me the symbols before.
Anybody got a question out there? Boom.
competition or potential competition, how much sleep do you lose over it? Do you dedicate a team that keeps an eye on your competitors so you can keep evolving yourself? How do you deal with that?
Damn, now everybody's leaving me. Wow, I even have new shoes on. I don't care. Doesn't mean anything to me. I'll spend 1 minute thinking about it. You know, competition's great. I'll just tell you, like here, ask my partner John, who led our deal in Fitbit. You know, were we, you know, and I shouldn't speak, I'm not speaking on behalf of Fitbit, just my observations of what happened. You know, I think, you know, this company started in 2008. It was the first players in this game. You know, it's obviously a really interesting category, but it wasn't a category. Nike showed up, you know, the Up showed up, and from Jawbone. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, those are deep-pocketed, big, you know, people, and they're doing good product. And they did make good product, you know. All it did was establish this as a must-have category, right? So all of a sudden, Fitbit and Nike and Jawbone are moving out of the Apple, not just limited to selling themselves on Amazon or direct on their sites or in Best Buy or Apple, where we would think to buy things like this. All of a sudden, you got to buy it at Walgreens, right? Or Costco, or, you know, Safeway, right? That's when it becomes a category. And so the competition is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, all boats rise in a big market. And, you know, are these guys concerned about, yeah, they're at a stage and, you know, whatnot where I'm sure they focus a lot on it, right? But where we are in About.me, I don't pay much attention. I don't think of LinkedIn as our competition. I don't think of Facebook as our competition. I don't think of Twitter as our competition. I think of them as partners. And I focus on what it is that we need to do, right, to get our product, to make our product. It's one thing for us to create a product that you guys will, you know, you'll set up. You know, you'll set up a page. It's another thing to make a product that'll get you to actually engage and do things, right? And that's all we focused on. And that versus worrying about the competition is where I want my team to be thinking about. And that's all we do. We have a very narrow lens. It's all about us, about me.
If I'm thinking based on what he said, what the question was, because I didn't hear it, but if I can just take 1 second to answer it for first opinion. We spend a lot of time thinking about our customers and about how we can make a better experience for them and how we can get them to tell their friends and come around than we ever spend about thinking about the competition. Like just today I was talking to someone and he's like, oh, you're in the health tech space. Have you heard of this company and this company and this company and this company and this company? And I hadn't heard of any of those companies. And they're all doing not things like how we're doing, but they're all kind of tackling maybe the same overall broad market. But we don't really know about them because we're focused on what we're doing and how we are solving the problem.
Yeah. We obsess on non-competition. We spend a ton of time. In our team meeting, we have actually a segment now where we talk about design, right? Just what's happening with design. Show me interesting uses of parallax. Show me what's going on here, you know, with design across the web. I want to understand it, not just from a mobile perspective, but what's happening in the browser. What's, you know, like that's our competition. That's what we need to make sure that we're keeping a clear eye on, so we understand the subtle shifts that are happening and to make sure that we're with them. Like I would always say at True Partner meetings, because I was privileged to have a deeper understanding early on about what was happening with iOS 7, because I had a good relationship with the dev team there. They weren't showing me proprietary stuff, but they're, you know, but you could see the design things and how it was coming up, the stuff that was public. But I could see it, and I came back and I just said, hey, listen, guys, you know, honestly, for every one of our companies, if they're not thinking about the impact of, you know, flat design, however you want to call it, you know, they're going to wake up sometime in the 6 to 18 month period and they're going to feel very dated, right? They just will. It's such a subtle transition that happens, and you don't even know it. But like, if you're not careful and you don't pay attention to things like that, then you get, you know, I don't say you get left behind, but boy, you miss a step.
They told me we could take one more question, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Does anyone have a question?
I think. Why don't you all get up and bark or
Yeah.
yell like
yeah,
yell
you
the loudest?
I mean, it seems like some of these companies have grown to great size and great people. How do you deal with the sort of internal cultural company building stuff? Is that what do you do to focus on that?
I think that's hard. I've seen a lot of different things, and a lot of different things, and some of them work and some of them don't. I think for these companies, probably the first thing I've noticed, and the ones that start to scale and have a serious footprint, is that they never hire a CFO early enough, or a star CFO early enough. And I'm not talking when they're, hundreds of millions of revenue like Fitbit. I'm talking when they're 10 million or 5 million. Bree was really smart. He listened to Brad Feld, and he brought on like a killer CFO at MakerBot. So I think like that's like the one thing that I really keep my eye on now and try to make sure, because a great CFO is not a bookkeeper. A great CFO is a strategist partner, like really helping you with revenue, thinking so strategically down the road here and setting things and systems up in a way that'll make sense and make the company scale. For the rest of the team, I think you have to trust your founder and you have to embolden your founder. And here's a little trick I've learned. Wow.
Yeah.
For the end.
I think something's
I don't know how to
going
read that. Is sometimes I'll have a founder go, well, our burn is, it's kind of crazy. And I'm a little nervous getting too in front of this. And I'll say, well, okay, what's that person cost? And this is a culture where they're used to paying $100,000 to $150,000 for their most senior executives, right? That person's going to cost $225,000 to $275,000, and maybe some bonus, some signing thing. And I'll look at it and look at them and go, so why aren't you doing it? Well, it's cost. We're ahead of ourselves. No. How about, I tell you what, we'll give you the money. You just take it as a bridge, right? If you're worried about the money, we'll give you $400,000 right now, right? Price it way down the road. It's not to my advantage. No sweetheart deal, discount, all that kind of stuff. Do it. Embolden those founders to make those moves that they know they should make. That's the main thing we do, or try to do. All right, listen, everyone, thank you so much for having us.